Hi guys. So I have a VK profile. You don't have to have a VK account to look at my profile because they are accessible to everyone. My VK profile is accessible to everyone, and all my posts are. You can see them. So I'll put the link in the description, and you can have a look at my profile because I put some stuff up. So here you've seen these before. Put here, fucking crazy. So this is about climate change CC, the 33. Let's give this a watch, shall we?
It is unequivocal that human activities are responsible for climate change. That's the finding.
So we've got BBC News here, the 322 Skull and Bones BBC News, because B is the second letter and C is the third letter. So that's backwards, it's 3, which is C, 2, BB, which is 22, so 322, which is Skull and Bones, Yale Skull and Bones. Have a look at it. Reporting that humans are responsible for climate change, which is propaganda. Let's look in further.
Of a new study by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's the most up-to-date assessment of how global warming will change the world in the coming decades.
So there we go. UN Climate Report Wake-Up Call. Global warming changed the world in decades. So looks like weather warfare. They're going to ramp weather warfare up out the geoengineering crap that they put in the skies. And going to change the atmosphere. And it's going to cause catastrophic events all over the world. Of course man-made. Of course it's created by humans. But evil humans in charge, not us. But yeah, let's continue.
Environmental experts have called it a massive wake-up call to governments to cut emissions.
So cut emissions. We've got to cut emissions, guys.
34 authors from 66 countries have worked.
66. 2, 3, 4, 66.
On the landmark assessment. The report says global average temperature rise could reach or exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius in the next 20 years. Now that
1.5 degrees Celsius, right? An increase in 1.5 degrees Celsius for the next 20 years. Okay. How do they come up with that idea? How do they measure that? Is it just some experts say so we should believe it? I want actual proof of what you've said, where they've found this, all the evidence there that they know it's going to increase by 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Is 10 years sooner than expected. That temperature rise will breach the ambition of the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement and bring widespread devastation and unprecedented extreme weather.
Widespread devastation and unprecedented extreme weather.
This all comes less than 3 months before the COP26 climate conference in Glasgow in Scotland. Vital UN talks that will determine the future course of efforts to tackle climate change. And the UK minister responsible for delivering COP26 has released this statement following the publication of today's report. He says, "Our message to every country, government, business and part of society is simple. The next decade is decisive. Follow the..."
So I'm guessing this is leading up to the Agenda 2030, innit? Let's cut our emissions down, that's what they're basically saying.
Science, and embrace your responsibility to keep the goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius alive. Our environment and energy analyst Roger Harabin has more.
Wildfires blazing through Greece and Turkey have horrified people in the region. The panel concludes we'll see a lot more fires as temperatures continue to rise.
A lot of man-made fires are going to happen. They're going to create a lot of man-made fires. Not natural fires, man-made fires, because that's what they are. So yeah, we're going to see more of them all over the world.
And rise they will as greenhouse gas emissions keep growing and growing.
Isn't it funny how all this is taking place right now after the pandemic? Isn't it a bit weird that, as soon as COVID hits, climate change starts a year later, and all this fucking shitty weather happens, all this crazy weather. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
The increased heat will change weather patterns, bringing more droughts and more rainfall, researchers say. London.
I want you to show me the evidence, rather than just researchers say. What researchers say? Come on, give evidence of these people and get them to show us how they find this information out. That would be a better analysis, a better explanation, rather than just researchers say. Because I could tell people, this person said this person said that. It means nothing. Yeah? All these floods and everything, this has happened before. In 2007, my area was flooded. My friend's house was flooded. He had to move to a caravan. So yeah, it's happened throughout history. This is nothing new. But of course, if it does get very, very extreme, it's because it's manipulated, it's man-made. They've done this through weather warfare. They probably put something in the drains to cause this flooding. It's not fucking natural rainwater, is it?
Was shocked to find areas underwater a few weeks ago. Rainfall patterns are hard to predict, but experts say Northern Europe will be wetter overall.
Northern Europe will be wetter overall due to climate change. So warm weather makes rain, does it? And causes flooding. How can 1.5 degrees Celsius change cause more rain? More precipitation?
London's Hampstead Ponds, they've already had to raise and reinforce the dams to protect hundreds of homes downstream from the sort of floods expected in extreme rains that are forecast to come. The cost has been huge. We're already paying the price of ignoring scientists' warnings on climate change.
So this report states as an
Oh, look at all that shit in the sky. I wonder how much of that is natural clouds. Yeah, I bet all this is some kind of... like I've said before in videos when I've looked up at the sky and said that there's different types of chemtrails, because this is what was seen over my town. There was grey clouds in the sky and it didn't rain for a week. It didn't rain for a week, but there was this continuous grey cloud in the sky after a nice summer hot week. We get this shit in the sky that blocks the sun and cools the atmosphere down, and it doesn't rain. It's grey, but it doesn't rain. I wonder if it's the same shit here that they're showing us.
Fact that human influence is warming the climate.
So human influence is warming the climate, okay?
And that's a very stark reminder.
Professor Ed Hawkins. Professor Ed Hawkins. Are you related to Stephen Hawkins? Is there a Hawkins family or something? Is it Stephen Hawkins? Stephen Hawking? Can't remember. Have a look. But Ed Hawkins.
That it is our activities which are changing the climate and affecting these extreme weather.
So our activities are changing the climate.
Events. And as the planet continues to warm, these consequences just get worse.
Ice in the Arctic is melting faster than many scientists predicted. That leads to sea level rise.
You see, I don't know. I mean, who was there to take that shot then of the ice falling?
The climate and affecting these extreme weather events. And as the planet continues to warm, these consequences just get worse.
So who was there? Was BBC News there to film that, or was someone there to film that, and then they sent it to BBC News? How did this work? That's what
Ice in the Arctic is melting faster than many scientists predicted.
That's not melting. That's just ice falling off into the water. That's not fucking melting. In a freezer, when I have some ice in the freezer, I have a bag of ice, it breaks up. Doesn't melt. It's not melting.
To sea level rise, which in turn increases coastal flooding. The seas will keep rising for maybe thousands of years because the ocean deep has absorbed so much heat already.
Look into grand solar minimum and mini ice ages and warming the atmosphere up. It's happened throughout history for hundreds of years. My auntie's got my auntie knows a doctor who a few years ago, when I was learning about, because I was learning about all this, I did an AS level called World Development, and this was part of it. And I asked him, because he was a doctor, I said to him about he's very uneducated guy. My aunt is not with him now, but he said that every 500 years or so we have this constant. It's like a zigzag. The temperature goes up and then it goes back down, then it goes up and then it goes back down, and that's happened right throughout history. So now we're in a phase of what seems, if it's true, that the atmosphere is getting warmer, it's going up. But people are also saying it's going down and we're heading into a grand solar minimum, which there's a lot of people that have proven that to be the case. So who knows, right? I don't know much about climate change, but I have touched on it before. I did learn about it in school. Remember my geography teacher saying that by 2050, a lot of the cities around Britain are going to be disappearing around the coastal lines. So heck knows what they've got in stock for us all. That's the case, because it's obviously going to be controlled, isn't it? If they do something like that, it's not going to be natural.
Political attitudes are changing. The UK is getting electric cars. We need clean technology.
Part of the Agenda 2030, innit, all this?
For home heating too. In the words of one leading scientist, we're not doomed, but if we want to avoid catastrophe, we have to drastically cut emissions.
So we have to drastically cut emissions.
Now.
So that means I'm guessing they're going to turn it into electric cars, and fuck knows what else. Probably going to increase the public transport out there and encourage people not to drive, or force people not to drive anymore. And you know what? I don't want that. I want the freedom to drive. You should have the freedom to drive wherever you want.
Roger Harrabin, BBC News.
Roger Harrabin, British Bullshit Corporation News.
Valerie Masson-Delmotte is a climate scientist and co-chair of one of the IPCC working groups.
And a Freemason, probably.
Produce the climate change report. She said the threshold of keeping the global temperature at 1.5 degrees Celsius limit will be breached around 2050.
The report
Agenda 2050
shows that in the next 20 years, global warming, the average temperature at the Earth's surface over a period of 20 years, is
Think about this, guys. In the UK, they want people driving electric cars by 2030, and that goes in addition to the Agenda 2030, doesn't it? So you make your mind up on that.
Expected to reach or exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius above the late 1800s. How?
I don't know how 1.5 degrees Celsius warmer can have such a catastrophic event on wildfires, extreme wildfires that have happened in Turkey and Greece and Australia and all these other places recently. It's like, what? Because of a 1.5 degrees increase in the atmosphere? Yeah, a load of shit. And this hasn't even happened yet. We haven't even, apparently it hasn't even gone up 1.5 degrees yet. But a tiny fraction of a degree causes so much catastrophe. Is that what we're told? It seems just as a load of shit. It just seems as believable as a back cold, doesn't it? And that's not very believable at all. But yeah, let's continue.
However, if we rapidly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, if we can reach global net zero CO2 emissions around 2050, it is extremely likely that we can keep global warming well below 2 degrees. If we do this, it is more likely than not that...
So this is part of the Sustainable Development Goals, isn't it? This is exactly what it is. The United Nations, which it says UN scientists in the title, which is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So that's what it is. This is what all this is. It's about cutting emissions. It's about cutting our lifestyle choices. Having less stuff. It's what they want for us. Part of the agenda.
Temperature would gradually decline
And I'll say it'll be a big part of depopulation as well, and chaos and people moving. I mean, what was it? Over 1 billion, 2 billion people are going to be displaced by climate change. Was it Bill Gates and that leader at the World Economic Forum said? I mean, that's a lot of people. It's pretty much 1, 2 in 7 people, 7 or 8 people. It's a lot of people, and they love chaos, don't they? Because it creates order out of chaos. They can do all this shit, cause all these problems and give the solution to the problem, which is cutting everything in our lifestyle and reducing our lifestyle choices to have more control over us. That's what it's all about, innit? That's what it's all about.
To below or around 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of the century, with a temporary overshoot of no more than 0.
Some changes, like sea levels rises, are irreversible, the study finds, so we're going to see loads of flooding. I'm guessing cities like Venice, maybe even New York and even London and Holland, like where Amsterdam is, I think those cities are going to be evacuated and people won't be able to return again because they're just going to flood them and say that they can't return because it's irreversible. That's what it's going to lead to. There's so much evidence out there that they're basically saying that there's going to be loads of cities around the world that are going to be underwater by 2050. So we're heading into some very crazy times with the climate change bollocks that they're pushing.
0.1 degrees Celsius. But if global greenhouse gas emissions remain around today's levels in the coming decades, we would reach 2 degrees of global warming by the middle of this century.
We're joined now by Tamsin Edwards, a climate scientist and one of the authors of this report. Welcome to BBC News. I know your area of expertise is the oceans and sea level change, and in fact you spent 3 years investigating this, haven't you? So it would be remiss of me not to find out more about that. What did you find exactly?
Well, that's right. We have over...
Climate report wake-up call. Human activities unequivocally causing climate change. So we've got to reduce our activities, I'm guessing. And methinks in a minute, hold on. Methinks that the masks are part of this agenda because it stops people from breathing out carbon dioxide, which is what we naturally need to breathe out and stay healthy. Zero carbon. I think that was part of the agenda. That's why they introduced the masks worldwide.
200 authors in the whole report. We have looked at 14,000 scientific studies over 3 years, and I work.
Where's the proof? That's what you can say all this shit on TV and everything, but where's the proof? Where's the evidence?
On ice sheets and sea level rise, as you say, we don't do new research, we assess the robustness of the evidence. So, for example, for the Antarctic ice sheet, we looked at the range of possibilities of the future of the ice sheet and therefore its contribution to sea level rise.
And one of your findings is that the melting of Greenland glaciers is irreversible, am I right?
Well, that's right. So there are different parts of,
Death for fossil fuels, there we go. I want to get rid of fossil fuels.
Ice regions around the world. We have the glaciers of the mountains and the polar regions, and we have...
Humans responsible for climate change. Fuck's sake. Can't even watch this anymore, it's going to piss me off. Very anti-human. Clearly. But yeah, check this out, guys. Interesting stuff in here. Got to look at this, look. Know your trolls when you look for anagrams of their profile picture. This one's obvious. So we've got cancel culture is bullcrap. It's got the Masonic yin and yang. It's got IV doc, which is COVID in anagram. And that's what I've just put. IV doc, nice name for anagram. IV doc is COVID and black and white Masonic yin and yang. Didn't reply. They don't reply normally. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't. So yeah, check this out, guys. Thanks for watching.